The Capitals keep the positive momentum going as they shut out the Winnipeg Jets by a score of 3-0. Let's not forget that the last time the Capitals played the Jets, they got shut out by a score of 3-0. How are they getting it done? I'll discuss next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. I would love to talk Capitals hockey with you one-on-one, and we can do that on subtext. Just check the show description for more details. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about how the Capitals keep rolling as they shut out the Winnipeg Jets by a score of 3-0. How are they getting it done? I'll talk about that a little bit later. We will talk about how Alex Ovechkin continues to dominate with a 2-goal night. And then we'll talk about how Chucky Sideburns, the outlaw, is standing tall. But just to get it going here, wow, what a win for the Capitals. A game, again, that I don't think anyone had them circled for winning, but that's what this team continues to do, defy odds. Listen, no one had them circled to win the Hurricanes either. They did that. So this team continues to just defy expectations and what everyone thinks this team is supposed to be. And they're getting it done, with kind of, some veterans and some young players working together, and they're getting it done without a key piece. And Tom Wilson, quite an afternoon for the Capitals. I'm just riding a high right now as a Capitals fan as they just keep chugging going on, and anything is possible. There's not a game coming up here that I think that they're out of it. I think that there might be some tough games ahead, but I wouldn't, write the Capitals off for any upcoming game. That is how confident I am with the way the team is playing. A big win for the Capitals Sunday afternoon as Charlie Lindgren and the Capitals shut out the Jets by a score of 3-0. If we remember the Western road trip here not long ago, that started off on the wrong foot as the Capitals got shut out by a score of 3-0. So quite an about face for the Capitals in a big evening. And Alex Ovechkin, who is this guy? To any of the people out there that are saying, that there's no chance he's going to do anything and he's washed and all that kind of thing, he is proving everyone wrong. Alex Ovechkin scored twice, and Charlie Lindgren turned aside all 27 shots he faced as the Capitals leapfrogged the idle Detroit Red Wings for the Eastern Conference's final wild card spot. So are you telling me there's a chance? I'm telling you there's a chance. There's a very good chance. This team's positivity snowball just continues to get bigger and bigger. So quite a thing for the Capitals. Like I talk about how they now lead the Detroit Red Wings by 1 point for the final wild card spot in the Eastern Conference with one game in hand. So to say the game Tuesday night is going to be a big one would be an understatement. I think the Capitals will be up for it. And if these last couple games are any template, I think the Capitals are in a really great position. But, just to talk about it again, a great afternoon for Alex Ovechkin, a 2-goal afternoon for him, and just continues to just be huge out there for the Capitals. Also a big game for TJ Oshie. He was honored at Capital One for his 1,000th game. And one of the things I will say is the Capitals do it in style. They gave him that custom hockey stick, and his daughters got hockey sticks as well. And it was a great evening. We saw a video tribute that featured Braden Holtby, which was really cool to see him. And then also Nick Backstrom in person, just to turn out for TJ Oshie for just one heck of an evening for his 1000th game. Can you believe it? The time really does fly. This was much like a game against the Hurricanes, like I said, that I don't think anyone had the Capitals circled as a win. But Charlie Lindgren, and I'll talk about him a little bit more in depth, Charlie Lindgren's 5th shutout of the season. Now, listen, when this season started, he was the backup, and Darcy Kemper, it was his net. And then, the wheels started to wobble for Darcy Kemper, and I talked about it. And if you're an everydayer of the show, I talked about it, that is there a chance that Charlie could steal the net away from Darcy? And people said, nonsense. There's no way. Darcy Kemper has this huge contract, and they're paying him all that money. And Charlie Lindgren just got lucky. Remember last December? Go ahead and forget last December, because he has continued to dominate and is one of the premier netminders in all of the NHL, and quite an afternoon for Charlie Lindgren as well. But talking about it here as well, a huge win for the Capitals, and they did it minus Tom Wilson, but they saw the return of TJ Oshie and Alexei Protas. Talking about Tom Wilson here briefly, per Greg Wyshynski, Tom Wilson and the Capitals and the NHLPA have declined to file an appeal of his 6-game suspension for high sticking, a source tells ESPN. So, Tom Wilson's doing the right thing, and, his representation, they're like, listen, I'm going to try to fight this. I got mixed into something that was a little bit too much, but I'm going to do the right thing and just ride out my suspension. John Carlson continues to just be dominant out there and just clutch for the Capitals. Carlson continues to be a key contributor on offense. John Carlson scores his 7th goal of the season on the power play. That is what got the Capitals on the board first at 1-0. Carlson has scored in back-to-back games and has recorded a point in 5 straight games. John Carlson and, the veteran-laden core of this team, along with the youth as well, continues to be just a driving force that all of the insiders are like, well, whoa, I guess I was wrong. I'm talking about like the guys on the NHL Network. I had to watch the game on the NHL Network, which was brutal. I got to say, their play-by-play guys, they might do good shows on the NHL Network, but their play-by-play analysis was just quite horrible. But in any event, those same guys on the NHL Network, and not to mention, all the guys on the Canadian networks up there as well, no one saw this from the Capitals. This aged old team, they will not make it to the playoffs. They continue to prove a lot of people wrong. Carlson now has points in 5 straight games. And the power play continues to roll. Since February 8th, the Capitals have converted on 24 of 68 power play opportunities, which is the highest power play percentage in the NHL in that span. So, something that, the Capitals struggled with a little bit earlier in the year, they're finding a way to get it done at just the right time. You can't script things out any better than this. And as a Capitals fan, there is a lot to be positive about. A month or so ago, there was talk that, there's no way they're going to make it to the playoffs. And let's talk about next season and where we're at. I was even resigned to that fact for a while because the Capitals were playing so poor. And it was a complete about face after the All-Star break when Alex Ovechkin was engaged and led this team, Charlie Lindgren and the entire team, and they grabbed the bull by the horns and said, look out, Metro Division, we're coming, and we're coming for a playoff spot. And that is what they're doing. So a lot of positivity from this game. I mean, make no mistake about it. This is a team that shut down the Capitals the last time they played it. And it kind of sets, that negative wheel in motion, because then they had Edmonton in there as well. And the Capitals and everyone were like, well, they got lucky and they won a couple games here, but now the rubber's meeting the road and this team is blah, blah, blah. Listen, they're getting it done in a huge moment against huge opponents. The Carolina Hurricanes are one of the better teams in all of the NHL. I understand the Winnipeg Jets have faltered a bit here as of late, but still are one heck of a team. So just to say, that they're getting lucky or they're just, eking their way into victory, they're taking down premier talent. Not to mention, just not too long ago, them taking down the Canucks and the Kraken and the Flames. Big wins. I think this team is trending in the right direction, and there is a lot to be happy about. Some of the note in the game that's a bit disappointing for me, the last I heard here, Sonny Milano, upper body, will not return to today's game. So he left the game, did not return. And the latest for that, I will have that for you on tomorrow's Locked On Capitals, but not ideal, as Sonny Milano has been engaged and scoring left and right. It's interesting that these players that were kind of lukewarm to start the season are kicking it into high gear. We're hoping that Sonny Milano is good to go sooner than later. All right, so coming up here, we will talk about how Alex Ovechkin continues to dominate a 2-goal afternoon for the Great Eight. Can he keep it going? I'll discuss straight ahead. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And if there's one thing that's frustrating for me, is that when my favorite band comes to town or my favorite sports team's playing, and maybe I didn't get tickets as quick as I should, and it's frustrating, get rid of the frustration and go to Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And they were talking about shouting there. I'm sorry if I'm shouting in this episode, but there is something to shout about as the Capitals keep rolling. And Alex Ovechkin, my captain, your captain, our captain, is getting it done. When we came out of the All-Star break, we're like, well, he got lucky here, he got lucky there. He continues to keep steamrolling. He is not stopping. He is going to push this team into the playoffs. I really do believe it. And if you're not drinking the Ovi Kool-Aid, well, crack a can open. It's about time. Ovi continues to be red hot. Ovechkin, who entered the NHL All-Star break with 9 goals in 44 games, is currently on pace for 29. Again, before the All-Star break, laughed. Ha, ha, ha. You would have laughed at me if I would have told you that was going to be the case. But he's getting it done. Ovechkin has scored 2 goals in 3 of his last 4 games. Not a flash in the pan. Not coincidence. Steamrolling, doing what he does best. The pedigree, the history, his inner being is coming out and coming to the surface and getting it done. He's getting it done without Nick Backstrom and some of his key centers that he's been comfortable with. He's finding a way to get it done. Yes, you in fact can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm not calling Ovechkin a dog, but you know what I'm talking about. And the first goal that was scored by Alex Ovechkin, Connor McMichael, or was it Alex Ovechkin? It turned out to be Alex Ovechkin. It was an interesting one where it was kind of fed, and it looked like initially that Connor McMichael hit it and it wobbled in. But upon further review, it was Alex Ovechkin. Alex Ovechkin has been credited with the Capitals' second goal, marking his 25th of the season. With the goal, Ovechkin extends his goal streak to 5 games and now has scored 17 goals in his last 24 games. Continues to be dominant and one of the biggest scorers in all of the National Hockey League as far as, a streak is concerned of how many consistent games he has scored. A huge thing for Alex Ovechkin, a huge thing for the Capitals. And, again, not to go on a sidebar here, but, people thought this team was down and out after the trade deadline. Like, listen, this team didn't do anything. They're done. They're waving that white flag. Oh, quite contraire. They're getting it done. Ovechkin now has scored 25 or more goals in 18 of his 19 NHL seasons, with the shortened 2020-21 campaign being the only season in which he did not reach the 25 goal mark. Again, to reiterate how he went into the All-Star break and only had 9 goals. So quite a thing for Alex Ovechkin as he continues to be red hot and getting it done for the Capitals. Alex Ovechkin scores his second goal of the game and extends the Capitals' lead to 3-0. It marked Ovechkin's 172nd career multi-goal game. Only Wayne Gretzky has more multi-goal games in NHL history. So quite a thing for Alex Ovechkin as he continues to defy odds. What I thought. I thought that, it was his slowest start to his season goal-wise, that there's no way that he can turn it around. I mean, what is it, this switch that's just going to flip? Well, yep, that's what happened. Switch flipped in there, and, the Alex Ovechkin that a lot of people already knew that was in there came to the surface. But a big thing for the Capitals keep finding ways to win games, and Alex Ovechkin talked about that. He says, I think right now you can see how we play. I think everybody have confidence. Everybody understand the situation. Ovi said, how I said a couple of days ago, that's why we fight all year. When we finish this season in 2 weeks, we want to keep playing. And here, I want the Capitals to keep playing. I think they have what it takes. And again, they're getting it done. The last game, take a look at the key pieces that were missing in that game. They found out a way to win against the Hurricanes, no less. In this game, they were minus Tom Wilson. I know it did see the return of TJ Oshie and Oshie and Protas, but they're getting it done. And they're getting it done with, a lot of key players that have been on the Capitals for years. I'm going to go ahead and say Evgeny Kuznetsov, Nick Backstrom, that they're finding a way to get it done. And it's through the integration of the youth in the system. I'm talking Hendrix LaPierre, Connor McMichael, Beck Mallenstein. Again, that moment earlier where Mallenstein shoved Dylan and he fell over. And, the one thing I'm going to say about Mallenstein is he is fearless. And this team is just gelling. I think there's really great chemistry. You take a look at Dylan Strome. We knew he was going to be good. Who knew he was going to be this good? And Alex Ovechkin, at the end of the day, he is the leader. There's a reason that he wears a C on his chest as he leads this team, as they keep defying odds. I say that a lot in this episode, but it's true, defying what everyone said. Because if you are a person that, it pays attention to the NHL as a whole, not just the Capitals, say you watch the morning shows or listen to, some of the bigger podcasts, everyone has panned this team. A lot of Capitals insiders had panned this team. So quite a thing that they're defying odds. Let's hope they can keep it going. I don't want to jinx them here. As long as they continue to stay healthy, Charlie Lindgren continues to be engaged. Listen, I would not think that any team that they're playing next is going to be a loss. Yes, I think they can take down the Red Wings. Yes, I think they can take down the Bruins. They've continued to prove everyone wrong, and I hope they can keep it going. All right, so coming up here, we will talk about how Charlie Lindgren, listen, we're talking about consistency and why this team is playing well. Well, Charlie Lindgren is a big part in that team success. I'll discuss next. We're almost at the end of the season. Can you believe it, Capitals fans? Now, listen, there's been highs and lows for this team, but regardless of where we are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily hockey contests. And listen, I was not the kind of guy that was that big into fantasy sports, but now that I've found Sleeper, I love it. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Capitals fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Charlie Lindgren continues to be clutch for this team between the pipes. We know that he is the number one. You know, there's been chances where like maybe Darcy will come in there and show something at nope. It is Charlie Lindgren's net. And I got to say one thing. Thank you very much to Brian McClellan for not trading him at the deadline. You got to think that his phone was blowing up with teams all around the NHL saying, we want a piece of that Charlie pie, but he didn't bite. And I'm happy. I don't know what the future holds beyond this season, but let's stay in the moment here and now. Because, you know, without Charlie Lindgren, I'm going to go ahead and say the Capitals have played well, but would they have won as many games? I mean, listen, we saw what we had in Darcy Kemper in the last game, got the hook out of the game. We saw what he had in the start before that. Not consistent, not great. It has been Charlie Lindgren being the brick wall in net for the Capitals, and he deserves a ton of credit. And that was true this afternoon as well. Lindgren's 8 wins in the month of March are the most in the NHL. So it's an interesting thing. You know, the Capitals keep rolling with him. Let's talk about the future. I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but let's do it here for a second. What do they do with Charlie Lindgren? We know that there is a year left on his deal. We know it's a bargain basement deal. That is why he is ultra appealing to a lot of different teams around the NHL because, you know, if you take a look at the back of his hockey card right now, wow, that's pretty stunning. You might want to put on some sunglasses because they are glowing. So it's going to be an interesting position. We know that we have Hunter Shepard. We know that we have Clay Stevenson, but are they going to be as good? Listen, you know, and I've juxtaposed back and forth on this. If there is a team that would ultimately take Darcy Kemper off the books in the offseason, I would be all about it and have Charlie be the number one and Hunter Shepard number two. But I digress. Talking about the game today, Charlie Lindgren has posted a record of 7-2-0 with a 2.02 goals against average and a 9.31 save percentage and 2 shutouts over his last 10 appearances. So to say he was dialed in would be an understatement. He continues to be huge in the net. I was watching this with my wife and I was squinting my eyes. I'm like, is that Braden Holtby out there? Is this 2018 all over again? Listen, he is playing that great. And, you know, I'm having that level of confidence in net for the Capitals that I haven't really had since the Holtby era. You know, because you remember Samsonov and Vanacek, and listen, there was no confidence on either one of those netminders on any given night. And Darcy Kemper has been good, but there is this ultra level of confidence. I'm going to go ahead and say this again. This is the most confident I've been in a Capitals netminder since Holtby was between the pipes. When he was dialed in, I mean, he's going to always be my favorite Capitals netminder. I mean, Holtby is a beast and will go down in my mind. It's the best. But if, you know, you take a look at 2018, it was Grubauer and it was Holtby. But this season, it's been Charlie Lindgren. He has been the rock steady force between the pipes. And I hope that history isn't any lesson and we're going to need, you know, a rock steady backup. Or if we do, that they do the right thing and go with Shepard or they go with Clay Stevenson. Unless, you know, Darcy can find a way to dial it back in. I am feeling really good right now, super confident about Charlie Lindgren in net. Charlie Lindgren stopped all 27 shots faced today against Winnipeg to earn his 5th shutout in 39 games played this season. Entering the 23-24 season, Lindgren had recorded 2 shutouts in his first 60 career games. So he is being rewarded because of his consistent play, because he is that brick wall in net for the Capitals, making a lot of saves that a lot of other netminders in the National Hockey League simply would not. So a tip of the hat to Charlie Lindgren and just a great team victory. All things considered, there was nothing glaring that, you know, made me like, oh man, that sucked. You know, no, everything was good. This was a game that you left, you know, your watching environment, either you're watching it in person or on television, and you thought that was a good win. That was a decisive win. I'm feeling good about this team because I do right now. I feel really good about this team. And listen, it's going to be tough. when they take on the Red Wings, but they can do it. I really, really believe they can do it. And then listen, they're going to be sitting in a really great position after that for the playoffs. Then they just kind of need to put it on cruise control, batten down the hatches, and let's just make it into the playoffs. Let's not have any grander plans of, they can make it to the second, third, or no, let's just get to the playoffs and let the rest take care of itself. Because one of the things that I've seen for the Capitals, much like a lot of other teams in other professional sports and in the NHL in particular, they have another gear that, maybe there were deficiencies during the regular season, but those have gone away now that we've made it to the postseason. And also Spencer Carberry deserves a tip of the hat as well. I was watching the post-game presser, or it was Al Koken rather, talking to TJ Oshie, and, they said, well, what was the change in the third period? And, TJ Oshie pretty much said that Spencer Carberry laid out a strongly worded pep talk, shall we say, to the team that they're not getting it done. You need to get it done. And whatever that did, whatever wires that, shortened and got the team going, it worked. So just everything working together, to the coaching staff, the net minding, there's a lot to love about this Capitals team. And as Capitals fans heading into Monday morning, you should have a skip in your step and high-fiving everyone around the water cooler talking about the Capitals game. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holney, and I'll talk to you again next time.